Argentina is a country known for its strong Latin culture, dominant Catholicism, and deep European immigrant heritage. But in recent decades, an interesting phenomenon has begun to emerge. More and more Argentines are converting to Islam. In cities like Buenos Aires, Córdoba, and Mendoza, Muslim communities are growing slowly but steadily, both of Arab descent and among converts born into non-Muslim local communities. What makes Islam so appealing to some Argentines? Is it a passing fad or a reflection of a deeper search for meaning? Islam first arrived in Argentina through waves of Arab migration in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. The majority came from Lebanon, Syria, and Palestine, which were then under Ottoman rule. Although many of them were Arab Christians, Muslim communities remained present and thriving, especially in Buenos Aires in northern Argentina. In the decades that followed, Islam continued to persist, though not as dominant. It was not until the late 20th and early 21st centuries that interest in Islam among non-Muslim Argentines began to increase, with the number of converts increasing every year. Argentina has experienced several identity and economic crises, most notably the Great Crisis of 2001. During this period, trust in old institutions, including the Catholic Church and government, began to waver. Many people sought alternative paths to understanding life, values, and meaning. Islam came as a religion that offered the rigor, clear moral structure, and inner peace that many sought. Some converts described the experience of converting to Islam as a return to nature. They felt that Islamic teachings answered their deepest questions about the purpose of life, social justice, and relationship with God, Allah, without intermediaries. For some Argentines, Islam offered simplicity in religion. Without a spiritual hierarchy such as a pope or priest, every Muslim could pray directly to God, read the Quran, and understand the teachings of the religion on a personal level. Religious practices such as prayer, fasting, and zakat provided discipline as well as a deep spiritual closeness. The Islamic lifestyle, which avoids alcohol, promotes social justice, and emphasizes personal responsibility, also appealed, especially to those who felt empty in the modern hedonistic lifestyle. In the internet era, many Argentines have discovered Islam not through direct interaction, but through social media, Islamic preaching videos, and Islamic podcasts. Platforms like YouTube and TikTok are filled with preaching content from Latino converts, both from Argentina and neighboring countries like Brazil and Mexico. Lectures from figures like Yusuf Estes, Mufti Menk, and local converts in Spanish have become a strong entry point. Many testify that they initially watched just out of curiosity, then eventually studied deeper until they declared their faith. In Argentina, mosques and Islamic centers such as the Centro Islámico de la República Argentina, CIRA, play a vital role in dawah. They open their doors not only to Muslims, but also to non-Muslims who want to learn. Introductory Islamic classes, Arabic language classes, and open-air studies are where many locals discover the beauty of Islam. Local Muslim communities also try to embrace converts, provide spiritual guidance, and help them adjust to Islamic life without having to cut off their ties to Argentine culture. Interestingly, most of the new converts in Argentina are women. They say they find new strength in Islam, dignity, protection, and meaning that they have not found anywhere else. The hijab is not seen as a symbol of oppression, but as a statement of identity and freedom from social pressures on appearance. Some have even become activists, writers, and preachers who speak up for Islamic values in the context of modern Argentina. Although Islam is growing in Argentina, challenges remain. Islamophobia, negative stereotypes, and lack of understanding are still obstacles. However, with the increasing number of converts and the openness of interfaith dialogue, the atmosphere is starting to change. Islamic schools and mosques are now more accepted in the general public, and some converts are even appearing in the media to convey the message of Islam in a peaceful manner. The growing number of Argentines converting to Islam is not just a statistic, but a reflection of a soul searching. In Islam, they find hope, meaning, and community. This shows that Islam is not a foreign religion to the human soul, even in a Catholic country far from the Middle East. This phenomenon reminds us that Islam knows no geographical boundaries. It came not to change local cultures, but to illuminate hearts that are open to the truth. And in Argentina, that light is now beginning to shine. Behind every shahada, there is a deep story. Maria, a former philosophy student in Buenos Aires, said she first came to know Islam while writing a paper on Eastern religions. She was attracted not by the doctrine, but by the moral consistency and spirituality of Islam. After years of searching, she took the Shahada in secret, then slowly revealed her Muslim identity to her family. At first they were shocked, even rejecting, but Maria's determination and positive changes in her life eventually made her family support her. Then there is Javier, a former rocker who once lived in the chaos of the nightlife. He found Islam after watching a documentary about the life of the Prophet Muhammad. The story of exemplary behavior, patience, and compassion in Islam touched his heart. Now he teaches children the Quran and helps new converts adapt to Islamic life. Stories like these show that converting to Islam is not an instant decision. It is born from an inner struggle, from a long search that finally finds the answer in the Quran and Sunnah. One common misconception that often arises is the assumption that converting to Islam means becoming Arab. But in Argentina, converts prove that becoming Muslim does not mean abandoning national identity. Islam actually fills the spiritual space without eliminating local culture. Argentine Muslims still speak Spanish, still celebrate tango and folklore culture, but now with stronger values. They eat Argentine-style halal food, wear modest Latin clothing, and remain part of the wider community without feeling marginalized. This proves that Islam is not a foreign cultural project, but a way of life that can take root anywhere, including in this land of the gauchos. The young generation of Argentine Muslims are the driving force of change. They not only attend traditional religious studies, but also actively create Islamic content on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube in a typical Latin style, relaxed, honest, and full of empathy. They create a Spanish-language dawah podcast featuring local clerics and discussing relevant issues such as marriage, spirituality, Islamic economics, and even mental health from an Islamic perspective. The growing number of converts has also prompted a need for stronger Islamic education. Several international organizations have begun to pay attention to Argentina, sending books, translations of the Quran, and supporting the training of religious teachers. Islamic universities from the Arab world and Turkey have also opened up scholarship opportunities for Argentine Muslims, both of Arab descent and converts. This has paved the way for the growth of a local cadre who could one day become ustads, scholars, and community leaders. With steady growth, the Muslim community in Argentina is expected to continue to grow, not because of strategy or propaganda, but because of the true appeal of Islam itself, the oneness of God, peace of mind, and spiritual depth. Islam is not here to compete with other beliefs, but to become an inner choice for those seeking peace. In the midst of a fast-paced and chaotic world, Islam offers steadfastness. And for Argentines who have experienced economic, identity, and spiritual crises, Islam comes as an oasis in the midst of a barren desert. Argentina, a country with a free spirit, is now beginning to know Islam from a more humane perspective. Not from news of war, not from stereotypes, but from the personal transformation of its own citizens. From lonely searches on long nights, from soft prayers, from tears that fall when finding verses that touch the heart, they are witnesses that Islam does not belong to a particular ethnic group, but to every soul who sincerely seeks the truth. And in the far south of the world, in a land far from Mecca and Medina, the light of Islam is now beginning to shine, from heart to heart, from house to house. The role of Islam in global issues such as Palestine, economic justice, and equality has become a spiritual gateway for many Argentines. They see that Muslims, despite being a minority in many contexts, continue to speak out about oppression, exploitation, and humanity. The Palestinian issue, for example, has great resonance among Argentine youth, both Muslim and non-Muslim. Many converts say that sympathy for the suffering of the Palestinian people was the beginning of their interest in Islam. They see that Islam is not only about the afterlife, but also about social justice and solidarity with fellow human beings. In the context of Argentine society, which has a history of resistance to injustice, such as during the era of the military junta and the economic crisis, the values of peaceful resistance in Islam feel relevant. Islam gives them a moral framework to oppose oppression, but with peace, manners, and determination. Argentina is a country with quite a high religious diversity. Although Catholicism dominates, Jewish, evangelical, and now Muslim communities live side by side. In recent years, Argentine Muslim leaders have begun to actively engage in dialogue with leaders of other faiths. In Buenos Aires and Córdoba, interfaith forums have been held on environmental ethics, economic justice, and universal humanity. Muslims show that they are not a threat, but rather part of a new, more ethical and spiritual civilizational solution. Converts often serve as informal ambassadors in this dialogue. Because they understand the world before and after Islam, they are able to bridge cross-cultural understandings with wisdom. They show that being Muslim does not alienate, but rather broadens empathy for others. The future of Islam in Argentina is promising, but not without challenges. Many converts do not have access to formal, in-depth Islamic education. Madrasas, quality online classes, and training of local preachers who understand the Argentine context are needed. Although declining, there is still stigma against Muslims in the mainstream media, especially during times of global conflict. This challenge requires the Muslim community to be more active in voicing a peaceful narrative. Converts often face alienation from their families and communities. They need emotional support and an inclusive community to remain steadfast in their Islam. But all of these challenges can be met through synergy between local communities, converts, global Islamic organizations, and academics who study Latino Islam. In the land of the gauchos, with their vast fields, their spirit of freedom, and their love of life, Islam grew not as a religion that imposed itself, but as a haven for tired souls seeking direction. Islam in Argentina is a reflection of the power of preaching without the sword, without coercion, but with love, knowledge, and the testimony of life. It grew from the encounter between the heart and the truth, from honest curiosity, from questions about life, and from deep spiritual experiences. We learn from them, Argentine converts, that guidance can come down anywhere, even at the end of the world, even in a country that was never the center of a caliphate, even in the midst of a modern, highly secular society. Thus, the growth of Islam in Argentina is not just a statistic, it is light. And like light, it cannot be contained by walls, prejudices, or cultural boundaries.